Hey, everybody. We're going to talk about how to get over heartbreak or a breakup or your ex as quickly as possible. I mean, that's the trend these days, right? Is people want to move on from heartbreak as fast as possible, right? Because no one really wants to experience the emotional discomfort of being heartbroken, right? It hurts. It's painful. It's disappointing. It's devastating. It can turn your whole life upside down. So I get why you might want to move through this and to get over your heartbreak as soon as possible. I really do get that. And we are going to talk about how to get over heartbreak, but I don't think it's necessary to do it as quickly as possible, right? I don't think it's about moving on. I think it's about letting the emotions move through you, letting the feelings of sadness, of devastation, of disappointment move through you, right? Because emotions are our teachers. They're really here to teach us something. And the goal is not to deny these emotions, however painful or uncomfortable they might be. I don't believe in negative and positive emotions. Got a little Roger dog down there. I don't believe in negative and positive emotions. I believe in painful and uncomfortable and joyful and comfortable emotions, right? Not negative and positive. Heartbreak, breakups are going to include a lot of uncomfortable emotions and painful emotions. So for me, it's not necessarily about moving on as quickly as possible. It's about letting the emotions do what they need to do and for them to be a teacher, right? And that means letting them in, letting the pain and the sadness in and feeling it, right? So not avoiding the pain, letting it in, right? So pain, sadness, disappointment, devastation, heartbreak knocks at your door. And the more recent the breakup, the more painful and intense those emotions are going to be, right? So they knock at the door, and you don't just ignore the knocking and put your head in the sand. You open the door and you welcome the emotions in, however painful and uncomfortable they are. And you invite them in for tea, right? You don't try to push them away. You invite them in while you keep doing what it is that you have to do. And sometimes those emotions are going to be so painful. You won't be able to do anything else but just be there with the pain, right? So on one side, invite them in, but then on the other end, don't dwell on the emotions endlessly, right? There has to be a limit to how much feeling you're going to allow yourself to feel, right? Because the reality is that we all have lives, right? Heartbreak, breakup doesn't just mean that you're just going to stop everything that you're doing. Like you probably still have to go to work. You probably still have obligations. You probably still have kids to deal with. And I'll talk about how to deal with that if you have kids with the person that you're breaking up with. But there has to be a limit to how much feeling you're going to allow yourself to do. So on one side, don't block the emotions, but on the other side, don't spend days on end mourning and grieving, right? There has to be some point where you say like, okay, now I'm going to go and do something else, right? I've like felt this enough. I'm going to go and do something else. And here's the thing with heartbreak. Those feelings are going to come back over and over and over and over again. And over time, they'll be less intense, right? They will be less intense. So that's number one. Number two is, if you can, go no contact. I'm a huge proponent of no contact with the person that you're breaking up from, or who just broke up with you, or who you're heartbroken over, right? Going no contact or low contact if you have kids, and I'll talk about the difference there, gives your brain and your soul and your heart and your body a chance, a fighting chance to not be constantly reminded of this person, right? Your brain is already going to remind you of this person. The memories are going to pop up almost like endlessly. So you don't need them, the reminder of them, text messages from them, emails from them, notifications about their social media, phone calls, coffee dates. You don't need any of that to remember them and the relationship, right? It's already going to be present. But no contact gives your whole nervous system a chance to just breathe and take a break. And the reality is that this person, this really important person, was your support network for a long time. When there's a breakup, they can no longer be your primary support network, right? The person that causes the pain can't also be the one that takes away the pain. So for a short period of time, you no longer can rely on this person to help you move through the pain that they used to be able to help you do, right? If it's an important relationship, they were there for you. They can't be there for you anymore if they're the cause of the pain. It's just going to create more pain. You almost, to a certain degree, cease to become useful to each other as a support person for this issue, which is why no contact is so important. It gives your nervous system a chance to freaking breathe. And you need all of the chances that you can so that you can continue to live life through heartbreak, right? So no contact. If you have kids, low contact, right? And that might look like saying, hey, let's only talk about what we need to talk about if it has something to do with the kids, and let's do it via text, right? So that's sort of what low contact would look like, setting a boundary around the kind of communication that is okay for you as you heal from heartbreak. So before you go no contact, you kind of want to tell the person, hey, by the way, what I need to do for myself and for my healing process is to go no contact. That means no emails, no text messages, no phone calls. I'm not going to wish you a happy birthday. I'm not going to wish you a Merry Christmas. Just know that I'll be thinking about you on your birthday and Christmas, but no contact. So I'm going to unfollow you on social media. I'm going to remove you as a follower. And this is just what I need to do to take care of myself, right? So keep the focus on yourself. That's what you're doing so that you can help yourself and give yourself a fighting chance, right? So give your heart, your mind, and your soul a break. And as you do this, right, as you lose your main support person, you are going to have to reach back out or to rebuild your support network, your family, your friends, your self-care practices, your hobbies, your activities, some of the things that you might have actually lost in this relationship, right? Some of these lifelong friends that are there for you, that will be there for you. Some new friends, right? Rekindling a relationship with a niece or a nephew or an aunt or an uncle or whatever. You have to build a support network that can help you during this transition. This is a hard transition, right? So you're like a trapeze artist that, tried to do a backflip, missed the trapeze, and now needs a support network to help carry you through what is going to be a very traumatic, possibly devastating transition. Right? So you can't do this alone. Of course, you're gonna want to lock yourself up in your room and to watch sad movies and listen to sad songs and cry, and that's great. Do that for sure. You need to do that. That's a normal part of the grieving process. That there's also a limit to that, right? You have to let some people help you, and those people cannot be your ex. Can't be your ex. I'm sorry. I'm like not flexible with this at all. Hopefully, you've wrapped up a lot of the loose ends of the relationships. And sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes you will not get the closure that you require to make it less painful, right? Sometimes people are just going to leave you out of the blue. And they will not tell you why, and you will be left with millions of unanswered questions. And I'm not saying that you can't ever contact them to get some clarity down the road, but in the short term, sometimes people just can't give you the closure that you require. And sometimes no amount of what they're going to give you will be enough for you. So if you have a lot of shit that you need to get off your chest and a lot of stuff that you want to tell your ex, then my suggestion is to write them a letter. Write them a letter. Write all the stuff that you want to tell them. Be as explicit as possible. And then burn it. Burn the letter. Do not send the letter. Don't send the text. Don't send some really long, super descriptive, very specific email with bullet point lists of all the shit they did and how they should have done or what you should have done. Don't do any of that. Write it all down, then burn it. Or delete it if you're not going to like use your hand. I think writing it is actually very like cathartic. 6 months down the road. All right. The no contact can last like 6 months and then you can reach out if you want to or not. Sometimes you're just better off leaving each other forever. Right. And that's sad. Super, 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 super sad. I just want to like acknowledge how hard breakups are. Right. Sometimes you're just not going to get the closure that you really wish you had. And that's just another sad part of breakup, right? Another thing to do is play the tape forward. They talk a lot about this in 12-step recovery, right? People that are recovering from drugs and alcohol will romanticize the good parts of the drugs and the alcohol. And you might have a tendency to romanticize the good parts of the relationship, right? So play the tape forward, which means don't just think back on the good times. Be honest with yourself about the things that weren't great about the relationship. Think about, equally think about the good times, but also think about the fights and the conflicts and the ways in which you were not compatible, in the ways in which your goals were not aligned, in ways in which you didn't want the same things. Sometimes they treated you with disrespect or they treated you poorly. Think back about those times too. Think back about the sleepless nights, the anxiety-ridden road trips. Think about the fucked up shit they did. Think about that, as well as the romantic honeymoon and the crazy sex and the feeling that no one's ever understood you the way they have, right? It's okay to have that, but also think about the other stuff. Don't forget the other stuff. It wasn't all roses. There were thorns there. It can't be all roses. If it was all roses, you wouldn't be breaking up. You wouldn't be heartbroken. So be honest with yourself about the status of this relationship. It wasn't all good. Give equal playtime in your head about the struggles, the conflicts, the friction, the fights, right? John Kim, the angry therapist, talks about don't just play the highlights reel, not all the good stuff. Think about the hard stuff too. Next is don't compare your healing process or your timeline to anyone else's, especially your ex, right? If you do no contact, another beautiful benefit is that you don't know if they're dating other people. Hopefully no one tells you what they're doing. If you have like friends in common, you can even tell your friends, please don't talk to me about John or Jane. I don't want to hear about it, right? No contact means that you don't know what they're doing. You can't compare their healing process with your healing process or your timeline. Some people will break up with you. 3 weeks later will be in a new relationship, not because they're already over you, but because they are denying themselves the space required to appropriately grieve a relationship. That's how that works. They're not giving themselves space to grieve. And I want you to give yourself space to grieve. And don't compare your timeline. There is no guide to how long this is going to last. Sometimes it lasts a long time. And I wish that wasn't the case. I really wish that we could all just sort of like snap our fingers and be over it. But that's just not how it works. It's not very realistic. It's very idealistic. Realistically, it's going to take time. Might take 3 months, 6 months, 2 years. I don't know. But don't beat yourself up because you're not over it yet, right? That's just needlessly beating yourself up. You're already hurt. Like, don't kick yourself while you're down. Just accept the fact that you're hurt and you're not doing that great right now. And that will eventually change. It will shift, right? Especially when you can be aware of the upsides of this breakup. All the things that you have to gain from this breakup, like the opportunity to be in love again with somebody else. The liberty that you now have to do whatever the hell you want without checking in with anybody, right? The chance to meet somebody that is more aligned with what you want, that is a better fit, that is more connected, even though you don't think that's possible. I know it's possible for you. Your life, your love life is not over just because you're heartbroken right now. It's on standby. Your love life is on standby. It's not over. It's not game over. I don't care how old you are. Unless you're dead, then it's over. And heartbreak will not kill you. You're not going to die. You are not going to die from this. I know there's always that story of like the old couple that have been together for like 60 years and then like one of them dies and then like a week later the other one dies. Okay, maybe. But that's unlikely to be your case, your situation. It might feel like that. But it's unlikely to happen. Right? So be aware of the benefits that you now are afforded. Super hard to do. I'm not saying this is really easy. You know, this is actually very, very difficult. And I guess it's worth mentioning, like, if you struggle with suicidal thoughts and tendencies, a breakup is not a reason to not live anymore. It might feel like it's a good reason to, but it's not. There are a lot of people out there that you can build a loving, fulfilling, successful relationship with. It probably doesn't feel like that right now, but my bet is that you will bounce back from this, right? And if you're watching a video called "How to Get Over Heartbreak," it's because a part of you wants to get over this, wants to heal, and you will. And what will help is time and space to heal this wound, to heal this, not just heal it, like really heal it. Time and space. You can't, there really are no shortcuts. I guess some of the things that I've shared with you today are shortcuts to a certain degree. There are shortcuts, right? But you can't eliminate the healing process. That's going to take time. So these are my suggestions for you. Accept the fact that you are just not exactly where you want to be right now. You probably don't want to be single. You probably don't want to be recently broken up with. Or even if you're the breaker, you probably don't really want to hurt somebody else like that, because whether you like it or not, when you break up with someone, it's going to hurt them. You can't really do it without hurting them. It's just kind of, that's the deal, you know? So you're not exactly where you want to be, but you kind of have to accept that this is where you're at, and the time and space will help. Some of these strategies will help. And I am, my wish for you is that you try to do this with as much grace and kindness and softness towards yourself as possible. Good luck.